welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. What's my favorite wrestling show? NXT. And because even if you don't like the show, it's not dry. Raw is dry. SmackDown has a little bit of dryness to it. Dynamite is basically a Brillo pad. But NXT always is full of fun stuff, surprises, things that you don't expect, silly characters doing silly stuff. This episode was no different, and it was a very fun night one of Halloween Havoc. So let's get into it. But first, news and notes. There really is only one note. Reality of Wrestling, the school owned by Booker T, had a NXT showcase match of Axiom versus Charlie Dempsey on their Reality of Wrestling episode, which came out, I think, Sunday, which would have been the 19th. No, it would have been the 22nd. So it was a pretty good match. I mean, for a match with no storyline attached to it, you really get a chance to see how Charlie Dempsey is progressing. And Booker T students aren't too bad either, but it's always interesting to see Booker T bring in NXT talent. This is the first time I think he's ever brought in NXT talent strictly to work with other NXT talent. Usually he has them work with his own students, but this was actually pretty good. And it's pretty cool, and I'm glad to see the Reality of Wrestling utilizing NXT and that ability to have some crossover and to see the NXT talent be able to go out and do some other things. That's always very good. All right, now let's get into Halloween Havoc. So NXT starts with a performance. I'm not sure if the band is called Vampire or if the band is called New Year's Day. Because if the band is called New Year's Day, that's stupid. But then again, band names are routinely DD and quite dumb. We start the show with Shotzi dressed as Pinhead from Hellraiser, and it's nightmare fuel. That's absolutely true. Scarlett is just hot, no matter what the hell she wears. I didn't write down what she was at first, but she was hot. Match 1 was the Devil's Playground match. Roxanne Perez versus Kiana James. Roxanne Perez wins the match with the Pop Rocks. Roxanne comes out dressed like Freddy Krueger from Friday the 13th. Kiana James came out dressed as a businesswoman, which is her gimmick. So she had nothing extra in terms of gimmick. She had a loaded purse, but this time she loaded it with like a MacBook. So she got like some kind of a MacBook in her bag all of a sudden. This match was not bad. It wasn't great. It was one of those silly matches like the pirate ship match or some silly stuff like that, where the gimmick kind of is a little overboard, where they got like a slide with blood on it and, you know, there's swings and stuff. It's kind of silly. It's supposed to look like a playground. So it's got like a fence and all this kind of madness. It was kind of dumb, actually. Roxanne Perez, of course, wins with her weak finisher, the Pop Rocks on the floor. What a weak, dumb finish. I hate that finisher. Kiana James walked around with a protuberance on her head. I don't know what the hell happened. It looked like somebody stabbed her in the dome piece, and it got lumped up really quickly. So whatever hit her in the head left a knot the size of like a golf ball right there. It was like, whoa, boy. It looked like it hurt. But she pushed through. Unlike Sin Cara / Mystico, who probably would have called the match off. Moving on. Justice for Trick. Carmelo Hayes is sitting down with Vic Joseph. He's having to sit down. He vaguely denied attacking Trick Williams. It took him forever to actually say he didn't do it. Then he says going into this new match with Ilya Dragunov, he has to ask what his why is. What's his motivation? He says his motivation isn't just a championship, but it's the title of him. How can he walk around NXT claiming to be him and be number 2? He said this time there's no more distractions. There's no more what ifs. And then Vic Joseph said, what if Trick Williams was in that match? You know, and Carmelo Hayes said, look, you know, same thing would have happened. I still would have won. And he says, but when it comes to that championship, he does what he got to do. And then he says that next week is for Trick, and that hashtag Justice for Trick, which is pretty silly. The rest of the night, people are bothering Carmelo Hayes about this Trick Williams thing. They're not being subtle at all, which makes me think it's going to be a swerve at the end. So Carmelo Hayes gets approached by Scarlett and Shotzi, who are dressed as twins. I think the twins from The Shining, when they were in the hallway when everything runs with blood. Anyway, they approach Carmelo, and They blamed him for attacking Trick Williams, and he was like, no, you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. Braun Breaker approached Carmelo Hayes, basically says that the two of them proved who they were a couple of weeks ago, that they're going to be the two guys fighting for the top spot for the next few decades, and knows that he attacked Trick Williams, and he did what he had to do. And Braun Breaker actually kind of supports it because, you know, he does what he has to do too. And of course, Carmelo Hayes still said that he didn't do it, which, of course, he's going to continue to deny this. And everybody's going to continue to say he did it, which is going to lead to the swerve. But I like that they're not shining away from the obvious. They're not trying to make it seem like it's some kind of big swerve, like it's going to be somebody else. Everybody is saying it's Carmelo Hayes. Baron Corbin is saying it. Pretty much everybody's saying it. Which, of course, at this point means that it will be a big swerve and it's going to end up being somebody else. Which is fine, you know. It would be weird if everybody says it's Carmelo Hayes and then it ends up being Carmelo Hayes. Like, that would be weird. That would be subversive, you know, in terms of storytelling, where they didn't bother to do a whodunit when it comes to the whodunit. It was just like, yeah, you did it. Everybody knows you did it, but it's all about him being in denial about doing it. But if they swerve us and it's somebody else, I wouldn't be upset about that. I would actually be okay with it. All right, so since we're on the subject of the championship match, let's talk about Ilya Dragunov and Vic Joseph. So Ilya Dragunov didn't have much to say, really. Only thing he said was that Carmelo Hayes would break like he did last time, and that Ilya does not adjust to opponents. His opponents must adjust to him. And that Carmelo Hayes is not focused on the title like he is. He is always focused. He is unblockable, or whatever that means. So, Dragunov just had to have a sit down with Vic Joseph because Vic Joseph had to sit down with Carmelo Hayes. He didn't really have much to say, really. They're kind of exposing how kind of flat the Dragunov character is. They need to add like some dynamism to his character. They did that before, where he was friends with Trick, and he was joking and stuff with Trick Williams because he had some respect for him. It would be nice if they kind of brought that element back, but it needs to be somebody else needs to be there to bring it out of. Ilya Dragunov. I don't believe he should go around joking and laughing with everybody. But there should at least be one other character on the show that he can respect and let his guard down with, so that he doesn't come across as just being generic angry Russian guy. The metaphor with Backstage with Scarlett while she was doing tarot, while they were talking about this being mumbo jumbo and calling it nonsense, Akira Tozawa snuck up behind Noam Dar and stole his cup, which means the Heritage Cup. He then sent them a text message later telling Noam Dar that if he wants his cup, he got to come get it. And they are inside a haunted house. So the yearly NXT haunted house gimmick, they're doing it again, this time with Noam Dar and the Metaphor. They got to go inside of the haunted house to retrieve the Heritage Cup, which is probably going to be next week's long storyline. I'm not a huge fan of the haunted house stuff, but the Metaphor I think they can make it work. You know, last year, or was it 2 years ago? It was last year, I believe. The haunted house gimmick ended up being dumped onto Toxic Attraction. The year before that, it was Cameron Grimes. So the Toxic Attraction was Cameron Grimes was a little bit more fun, I guess, because of Dexter Lumis and the gimmick that they were doing there. So I don't know why Tozawa is a member of Alpha Academy and now a person who has a haunted house or knows where a haunted house is or is going to hide inside of a haunted house. I don't know. Does this matter? Look, Triple H, I don't know why he likes Akira Tozawa, but he needs to get over it. All right. That's one of those guys. I'm surprised he still has a job. I don't know what Triple H, his infatuation with Akira Tozawa is, but I wish he would get over it. All right, the second match on the show was the debut of Lexus King, who defeated Dante Chen. So Lexus King, aka Brian Pillman Jr., he comes in on a horizontal throne. So the throne comes into the screen, you got his legs crossed, whole 9 yards. He looks like the lead singer of Whitesnake or Bon Jovi or something like that. I mean, he just comes across like 80s rock star with the platinum white hair. Very weird choice of beard that he's going with here. I don't know. It's like he was done with a ruler. Very odd decision making when it comes to his facial hair. He cuts a promo saying that, well, before the match, it was basically him yelling at the camera that Brian Pillman is dead. Long live Lexus King. This match with Dante Chen was probably longer than it should have been, but it was supposed to be a showcase, so it showcased how well he sold and his offense. It was a little clunky. It's not as smooth, his work, as it should be. And you could tell that he's kind of thinking things through, but he has something. There is some potential there. He's going to give him some more time. He ain't been in the PC but like a month or two. So give him a little bit more time, he'll get better. His finisher is a hanging neck breaker, which is, well, technically it's a spinning neck breaker. It's much like the Widow's Bell of Tommaso Ciampa or the Heat Seeker of MJF, where you do it from the middle rope, but it's more like a cross chest neck breaker thing. It looks like it's going to be hell to get somebody into. Like, it's a move you can do to anybody. So if you can actually get the move onto somebody and do it in a natural flow to the match, that would be fine. But I don't see how you would naturally have it if the person is not outside the ring, or something like that. So maybe switch to the finisher, but I think mostly it's okay. Brian Pillman got his ass kicked on promo by Booker T, who says that he never liked Brian Pillman and he never was a fan, and he never heard good things about him. I'm like, damn, Booker, you hate Brian Pillman? Why? But he really put over Lexus King about him trying to blaze his own path and all this kind of stuff. So it seems like that's the direction they're going in, is Booker T's going to try to put over Alexis King by burying Brian Pillman. I'm pretty sure they did work together in WCW, though. I'm pretty sure they did. I don't know to what extent, but I'm pretty sure they spent some time together in WCW. All right. Lexus King needs work, but okay. I'm surprised Dante Chen still has a job, by the way. I mean, this guy. I know he got injured right after his push started when NXT 2.0 was a thing. I know his whole gimmick was about impressing his dad or something, or he was doing this for his dad. I know his dad was a big part of his gimmick, but Dante Chen's been there for over a year now, and this is probably like his 10th appearance on NXT. He's not terrible, but he's not great either. He could be a solid tag team guy, I guess. But him being a jobber is kind of not a bad spot for him. All right. Backstage, Chase University appreciates Thea Hill and JC Jane for having their back in the big battle royal that they won the previous week. Thea Hill says that, she promises not to throw in any towels tonight. And, which of course is supposed to make you believe that she will throw in the towel because they mentioned it. Match 4. Chase University versus D'Angelo family for the NXT tag team titles, and the Chase University actually won. Huge surprise here. The whole night, Thea Hill has a towel outside the ring, and she's like waving it above her head, and the crowds are chanting, "Throw it in, throw it in." They want her to screw Chase U like she got screwed by Andre Chase, and it seemed like that was going to be a perfect setup. Out of nowhere, however, during the middle of near the end of the match, JC Jane pulls out a crowbar and slides it to Andre Chase, who looks at this crowbar like, what is this? Like a fresh newborn or something like that. Like, what is this icky thing? And put it to the side. She then gets on the ring apron to argue with him about it. He ducks Tony D'Angelo, who's trying to do something. He bounces off the ropes, knocks her down. Tony D'Angelo turns around like, what was that? And then he gets rolled up by Andre Chase and pinned. Chase University are now the tag team champions. What a surprise. Huge surprise. Big pop in the building. Chase University is super over. And you know what? As much as of a surprise this is, I don't hate it. I don't love it because I like Tony D'Angelo, but it seems like they had reached a ceiling with the D'Angelo family in terms of where they were going as champions. I don't know why they hit the ceiling so quickly, considering they have so many teams in the division that they haven't wrestled. But moving the belts over to Chase University and doing so by having JC Jane, who is essentially a heel, cost the D'Angelo family the match was interesting. So now, next week, they've set up another Chase University title opportunity. So Chase U was backstage celebrating their victory. Duke Hudson recognizes themselves as the locker room leaders now, that more is going to be expected of them. Then Chelsea Green and Piper Niven show up. Chelsea Green is dressed like Little Red Riding Hood, and Piper Niven like the big bag wolf. At first, I thought she was a giant pig. Like, I'm not even going to lie. I barely looked at the screen. I just saw her in an outfit, and I thought she was supposed to be a pig. I thought she was like a wild boar or something like that. I was like, damn, they really fucking her over. But she's supposed to be a big bad wolf. And but Chelsea Green dressed as Little Red Riding Hood, let me tell you, Chelsea Green's hot, man. That girl is hot. I don't know if I say that enough, but Chelsea Green is hot. Anyway, they get into an argument with Thea Hill and JC Jane, and Chelsea Green decides that she's going to go complain to Shawn Michaels about how Thea Hill and JC Jane are speaking to them. And as she's leaving, Thea Hill and JC Jane decide, okay, since we're going that way, we might as well ask for a tag team championship match. And of course, it is granted, because who else is going to wrestle Chelsea Green and Piper Niven? And so Thea Hill and JC Jane will have the opportunity to win the tag team championships next week, which is going to set up, no doubt, Andre Chase probably screwing over Thea Hill and JC Jane and formally breaking up Chase University. I think they've reached the pinnacle of what they can do. And I think the tag team titles is a pretty high point for them. It's more than I ever expected Harlem Bravado to get in NXT. I expected him to be a jobber who would come in, get beat up 100 times, get pinned, and that was it. And then he struck gold with his Bob Knight gimmick, and it's doing very well, you know, and I'm very impressed. I hate to say it, but I'm very impressed. I'm also impressed with Duke Hudson, you know, and Thea Hill and JC Jane. I think everybody here is doing a really good job. And I'm not a big fan of Harlem Bravado at all, aka Andre Chase. All right, the women's breakout tournament, the semifinals took place on this show. Kalani Jordan defeated Ariana Grace with the split leg moonsault. This was an okay match. Still feel like Kalani Jordan needs to add some aggression to her game. Ariana Grace is fine. She didn't need to win. I think she's probably the most seasoned in this tournament. Also, she is the oldest person remaining in this tournament. I bring up how old she is every time. She's only like 28 or something like that. So she's not like old, but she's old for this tournament. She's the oldest person in this tournament. But she's very good. And her character work is top notch. She's doing a great job with the gimmick. She just didn't need to win the tournament. And putting Kalani Jordan over was perfectly fine. The second match on the show from the semifinals, Lola Vice defeated Carmen Petrovich. Neither one of them got an entrance, which sucked because I kind of wanted to see Lola Vice's entrance. But this was made fun on social media before the match even happened. They got into an argument on Twitter because Lola Vice is a real life MMA fighter. And she was, I guess, trying to impress that upon Carmen Petrovich, and she didn't know Carmen Petrovich's background, apparently. Because then Carmen Petrovich just started posting like 80 medals that she won in martial arts. Like, it was like gold medal and kumite, pit fighting, and all kind of crazy shit. I'm like, God damn, where did they get this girl from? And Lola Vice is twerking and doing, you know, MMA stuff on the pads. And Carmen Petrovich is like, I'm one of like the most decorated karate fighters or whatever on planet Earth. You know, like, it's almost like she was like walking around on some, you know, she could turn your brain off by punching you in the chest. I'm like, what the hell? Where the hell did get this girl from? So it was very entertaining because I don't think Lola Vice knew who the fuck she was talking to. Like, this girl is a shooter too. She can fight. At least she can fight in tournaments. I don't know if she's a cage fighter, but she's at least a decent tournament fighter. So it was pretty funny. In any event, Lola Vice wins the match with a roundhouse kick. Carmen Petrovich is okay. She's not terrible. She, of course, needs some work, but this is one of the first few times we've seen her. This is only her second or third match. So she's okay. A very clean crossbody outside the ring by Carmen Petrovich, too. So she didn't manage not to kill herself. So that was great. What happened is each one of them threw a roundhouse kick. Carmen Petrovich's kick was ducked by Lola Vice, who threw her own roundhouse kick and ended up winning the match. Lola Vice winning is the right decision. She's the more seasoned of the two. And she's the one that they're actually pushing. And I can see Lola Vice being the person who wins the tournament. Because Kalani Jordan versus Lola Vice is the finals. Kalani Jordan, she's okay. She's good. She's really good. Again, in terms of talent who have not wrestled anywhere else and have almost no experience, Kalani Jordan is very good. She's up there with Sol Ruka in terms of she's fucking good with no experience. Lola Vice also very good with no experience. Both of these girls are actually pretty good with no experience. The difference is Lola Vice is, I think she's a little bit more ready, and she actually has aggression in her attacks, and she has varied offense. She can do strikes, but she can also do ground stuff too. While Kalani Jordan can only seemingly do the agility-based or the choreography-based stuff, which is, within her wheelhouse. But it ought to be a fun final regardless. I'm still going to go with Lola Vice. Von Wagner, he's walking with the help of a walker. He questioned Rob Stone about fighting Braun Breaker, said he's going to get his ass kicked. Robert Stone knows that, but says that he wants to just land one punch or slap onto Braun Breaker in order to avenge his friend. Von Wagner is like, I'm your friend? And Robert Stone is like, hell yeah, you are. And now Von Wagner is motivated even more to walk so that he can help Robert Stone. And, oh brother, that ought to be interesting. Shotzi comes out dressed as Edward Scissorhands, and Scarlett remains hot. I mean, god damn, she's hot. I think she was supposed to be a vampire here. I mean, it don't even matter. I mean, the girl's just hot, and I don't care what but this is like one of the rare times she's speaking in her real voice on television, and rather than that slow, dreary, tarot card reader voice, she's just basically speaking in her own voice. They were also talking about, they have a YouTube show. I had no idea that these two had a YouTube show, which is on WWE YouTube. I don't know. I have no intention of watching it either. Anyway, the Creed brothers came out there and challenged Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo to a match because those two guys cost them the Battle Royal the previous week. Shotzi and Scarlett told them to spin the wheel, and it ended up being tables, ladders, and scares, which actually sounds interesting. I have no idea what this means, but it sounds interesting enough. Can't wait. Always like watching the Creed brothers. I like Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo too. So this ought to be fun. I know it's a gimmick match for no reason, but okay, I'll take it. Nathan Fraser, hard-hitting home truths, said that him and Dirty Dom don't like each other. Dominic is only the NXT North American title because Judgment Day bailed him out and said that Dominic is as useful as a chocolate teapot, which has got to be some really offensive shit. And I hope that Dominic smacks the shit out of this guy for saying that about him. Because somebody says you are useless as a chocolate teapot. Like, bro, I don't even know what that means, but I know it's offensive. So, last year, Nathan Fraser was injured at Halloween Havoc and almost ended his career. This time, it's time for him to step up. And he challenged Dominic Mysterio for the North American title next week. And on Twitter, he says he's going to finish the story. I know that's got to be haunting Cody ever since he introduced that into the wrestling lexicon. Finish the story. I know he's going to be tripping. Nathan Fraser winning the title is probably not a good idea, but they might actually do it. It feels like something that they might do now. But having Dominic beat Trick Williams for it just to lose it to Nathan Frazer, that would be stiff. That would be stiff work. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of that, honestly. But okay. I'm gonna go with Dominic wins, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nathan Frazer won. All right, Gigi Dolan and Blair Davenport had a lights out match with basically no disqualification in the dark. That was pretty much it. Almost exactly the same as the first match. Just a bunch of weapons and different things like that. This is probably one of Gigi Dolan's best matches on the show. Since she's been on this show and since she's been a single. Blair Davenport won the match with the Kamigoye, which for those of you who are uninitiated is the finisher of Kota Ibushi. It's essentially where somebody grabs both of your arms and pulls your face right into their knee, into a knee strike. It looks vicious. And Kamigoye means beyond God. It's Kota Ibushi's attempt to have a finisher that is beyond that of Shinsuke Nakamura, which is its own thing because Ibushi apparently looked up to Shinsuke Nakamura. Anyway, and during this match, Gigi Dolan got hit in the head with a chair. Yes. Blair Davenport threw a chair like Sabu and bounced right off of Gigi Dolan's head. And I was like, that's very interesting. I'm sure nobody's going to get fined for that one. Later in the match, Blair Davenport did a Falcon Arrow off the announce desk through a table, which was the setup for the Kamigoye because the finish had to happen in the ring. So that was basically the big move that led to the Kamigoye, which led to the finish. So it was solid enough. The only problem I have was Blair Davenport not being sure of what to do with that table and how long it took for her to set that table up. I don't know what it is about women and having to move objects, but for some reason they just never get it quite right. It's almost always just a little bit off. And it just took her just a little too much time to set up a table. And I was like, oh my God, baby, it's taking too long. This is taking forever. It's taking forever. All right. But the match was solid enough. I didn't hate it. Fallon Henley cosplayed Tiffany Stratton and basically mocked her during a promo segment, which is probably one of my favorite segments all night. I mean, it was bang on. She was even using Tiffany Stratton's language, saying toodles and everything. It was pretty funny. And the whole gimmick was, which one's the real Tiffany Stratton? Which, of course, we know which one was because Tiffany Stratton was actually talking when Fallon Henley showed up dressed like her. They ended up brawling backstage, and they're going to have a match next week. Interesting, they're going to finally do something with Fallon Henley, even though she's just going to job to Tiffany Stratton. But, you know, Fallon Henley might be an untapped potential in this division. I feel like she's kind of underutilized. I like her. I wish they would do more, but Tiffany Stratton's going to be, she's great. So I don't see Fallon Henley beating her, and nor do I think that need to happen. All right. Main event of the evening. Lyra Valkyria wins the NXT Women's Championship, defeating Becky Lynch clean as a bed sheet by countering the manhandle slam. I was shocked. This match goes from, I remember, I legitimately, as the match was going on, I think it went into the 15-minute overrun. I wrote down as I thought the match was about to end. It was a little clunky. Lyra Valkyria probably needs a little bit of work. And then I wrote, okay, solid. Then, okay, good. And then at the end, I was like, this is fucking awesome. All right, because what took it from one level to the next was Lyra Valkyria showing grit. You know, she was hanging, like, early in the match, you could tell that they were going through spots that they had previously rehearsed, which is almost always a women's division problem in NXT. You could tell they rehearsed their stuff and it becomes obvious. But then over time, it gets a little bit less obvious to the point where Lyra Valkyria is actually doing very good. And then she starts kicking out of big moves. You know, she's escaping the disarmer. She's, you know, countering Becky's offense and things is looking a little bit better. It's a little bit smoother. And then she kicked out of the manhandle slam. And it was a vicious one too. I mean, I was like, damn, when it first happened, it looked like, you know, she's going to break her neck. And then she kicked out. And of course, the first thing that popped up in my mind is how many main roster world champion women got pinned by that move for an NXT broad to kick out of it. But then I thought about it and I was like, okay, Let's not go there. They're really trying to put her over and get over how good she is. And then they go back to the move, and she counters it into a roll-up that Becky Lynch doesn't kick out of. And I just, legitimately, I sat there for a second, dumbfounded that they would make the decision to put the belt on Lyra Valkyria. And then I also was not surprised because she is legitimately a very good wrestler. You know, even though I have my, you know, complaints about her personality and everything, she's not terrible. So her getting a huge rub from beating Becky Lynch, I have to say, is deserved. This was great. This was the kind of shit that you want to see from NXT. And then the most interesting thing about this is that they set all of this up. This is a swerve because it seemed like Becky Lynch was going to just have her feud with Xia Li, and she was just going to walk through this match with Lyra Valkyria, and that was going to be that. But no, she lost this match. So now you sit back and you're like, man, what about Xia Li? She hit Candice LeRae in the throat for nothing. She's been stalking Becky Lynch for no reason now. You know, like, now she's not the NXT champion anymore. What is Xia Li gonna do? And the only answer is she's got to go back to NXT. You know, apparently that's what's going to happen here. They're going to send Xia Li back to NXT. And it seemed like they weren't really done with Becky Lynch on NXT. So she might not be going anywhere, but I'm still kind of like, wow. I thought there were still more people for her to wrestle on Raw. Again, you know, somebody like Candice LeRae, maybe some other underutilized women on Raw. But putting the belt back on Lyra Valkyria was big. And this was very impressive. And I liked, even though I didn't really care for the hugging at the end, because I'm kind of tired of that idea, but they actually set the story up before with these two, Lyra Valkyria kind of being the protege of Becky Lynch. So I liked it. I thought it was very well done. The right person won. If anybody's going to beat Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria being the one is not a problem with me. My only concern here is that I would have liked for him to build up the main event throughout the night. Rather than just telling me what the main event is, it would have been nice if we could have watched them cut promos on each other or watch a video of them training together, or they showed that video package of the two of them one more time just to hammer home the idea that these two they have a history. It would have been nice. The same video package they showed last week, they could have showed it this week rather than, I'm pretty sure there's something on this show they could have cut off or shrunk in order to slide it in. But I would have liked for them to show that video clip just one time in order to, because this is going to be the highest audience of the night, is Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch. So right before the match started, it's kind of like they would do for a pay-per-view, just run that video package one more time. And I think that would have been perfect, you know, if you're not going to do it throughout the night. So NXT is very fun show. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Was not bored for not 1 second. Even if there was a match on the screen I didn't care for. There was debuts. There was stuff happening. Jade Cargill was there to watch this match, even though she had no hand in the finish. But she was there to watch. So they gave you that little tease too. There's just a lot going on. So NXT is fun. Let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.